pumped up right now about this hockey season, and I haven't touched a draft in almost like half a decade after making it most of my life for so many years. So I hear my boy Naheed's got some juice for me.
We about to get educated today. All right, so introduce you guys. This is my boy Naheed, or like he likes to go to, Mr. ThawerPower. You know, we love what he has to spit in terms of hockey knowledge, draft. He's been doing this for like 10 years now, has it posted. So we're looking forward to see what he has to say today. How you feeling, man?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. The draft is just around us.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, so just Tuesdays. So things are moving quickly, but, you know, this is a good opportunity to just, you know, share my 2 cents with you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're really excited too.
Yeah, perfect, man. We're just going to dive right into it. First segment we're going to jump into is lucky number 7. Here, Naheed, I want you to give me 7 players that you think will be the truly steals of the draft.
Let me start, boys. So the first guy that I have is a guy by the name of Marco Rossi, a 5'9" Austrian. Yes, boys, okay. Austrian. So this kind of came out of nowhere. Okay. I don't think anybody expected him to be this good this quickly. But Marco Rossi is actually the first European to lead the OHL in scoring.
Wow.
Yeah, you heard that correctly. Unbelievable story. So Rossi is currently ranked number 3 on my list.
Wow.
And currently on McKean's Hockey, he's actually ranked 9th. So that to me seems like a bit of a steal.
Great value.
I think he seems to be more in that stratosphere of a Lafreniere or a Stuchla or a
weren't you telling me about there's some clip about Rossi just undressing him?
Yeah, there is a
check it out.
There's a clip from the Top Prospects game. So here we go.
I'm pulling it up right now.
Marco Rossi in the corner just move around Alexis Lafreniere like he's a pylon.
Yeah. You were lying about that one.
All right.
Yes, sir. So on to the next one. So this one's a little bit off the board according to pretty much every prognosticator I've seen. I got my boy Ridley Gregg, who's a 5'11" left winger turned center, ranked number 7.
My man on the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Dude, check this out, boys. This guy is ranked 83rd on EliteProspects.com. So there's a slight variance here, if you know what I'm saying. Biggest reason I got Greg this high is simply at the Top Prospects game, nobody had more chances than the aforementioned. He had 5 scoring chances and just got better thereafter. So after the Top Prospects game, he got a number 1 line center opportunity with the Brandon Wheat Kings.
Oh, all right.
Last 20 games, he put up 30 points in 20 games. So he averaged about 1.5 points per game, 26 goals. I fully anticipate this guy to take his game to the next level. The 2 guys that he reminds me of right off the bat, first is Anthony Cirelli, who I think you guys probably both love.
Cirelli's our boy, man.
Yeah, I love that kid.
And then the next story is a little interesting. So you guys probably remember Pierre-Luc Dubois in 2016.
Of course.
A guy that went off the board, you know, a guy that was actually a winger that turned to a center. So I see a lot of similarities with Ridley Gregg. Just a high upside, a guy that's got a super motor. Funny story about him, his dad, Mark Gregg, actually went 15th overall to the Hartford Whalers. So there's a bit of pedigree there too, some family history to the NHL.
Let me ask you a quick question here. So you said, you know, he's projected around 83rd.
Right.
At what point do you think he's a steal? If I get him in the top 60, 50, like,
well, I'll be honest.
Where would you be willing to take?
Like, I mean, I think an honest steal is kind of in and around where the Flames are picking. So if you're looking in and around 20, like if you're going to take this guy at 20, I mean, according to lists, I think he's available. HockeyProspects.com actually had him at 14. So, I mean, there are some prognosticators that do see value. But for me, I mean, if you're talking about a guy that has the potential to even be like a number 2 center at worst in the NHL, I mean, man, you could call him a steal even going at 15. So, I mean, if he's going to go there, if he's going to go in the second round, like I would be a little disappointed if scouts waited for the second round to grab this guy.
You brought up some really good players that I personally like in the game of hockey, because I always say there's different types of players you need. You need playoff guys, and there's guys that are going to excel in the regular season. So Cirelli, Dubois, like these are guys. Cirelli is so well known even from his junior days of being that guy that can score that goal. He may not get you that 50.
Goals.
Yeah, he might not get you that 50 in the regular season, but he'll get you that 20 that you need maybe in the regular season, and then that 5 that, oh my God, you're praying for. So the one question I had was, for a guy like this, Do you see him as like one of those top line guys who's going to be scoring a lot but can play that two-way game? Or is he a guy like Cirelli where, from a drafting perspective, 5 years down the line, those guys end up really doing well for contenders? So I'm kind of curious where we can see this guy land, because centers now are so important in the NHL, and frankly, there's no such thing as a third and fourth line anymore. So a guy like Cirelli is so valuable because he can score you 20 goals in a year, but also defend the best players in the NHL.
Right. And so I think, going to your point, it's important to know like the value of a two-way player. So, generally when I think of a two-way player, I'm thinking of a guy that can move up and down the lineup.
Yeah.
So, you have to keep in mind that Anthony Cirelli didn't even really get an opportunity playing a top six.
Because they're top
just so sad. So sad.
Just making the most of your opportunities. So what's really interesting is, even with Ridley Craig, he played a bottom six role for Team Canada at the Ivan Halenka, which is a tournament that goes on in the summer before the start of the regular season. He put up 3 points in 5 games in a very limited role. Conversely, so it's
the sky's the limit for the guy.
So
right?
intangibles I think are kind of hard. It's kind of hard to get value out of an intangible, but I think that we would all
but
agree
I think to your point, then this isn't a guy who's going to break out into the scene and put up 70 points in his first season, right? But given the right opportunity, like, he can excel on your team and really round out your team.
Exactly. And it's not just about the points. We probably can all agree with Johnny Gaudreau, like a guy that puts up monster stats,
but then disappears when
in
you
the
need him.
playoffs.
Best
It's
example.
difficult to get
Best
guys out.
example.
Absolutely. And the one that hits home, really hits home. So
I don't have any side when it comes to him, but he is so terrible to watch.
It's difficult at times
It's
because you want the guy to play
smarter hockey.
All around.
Dump it. Don't try and get through 4 guys every time.
So now, if you're talking about a guy that can play center, a new position that he's been playing with this team just this year, and to be able to really capitalize and put up about 1.5 points per game, in his last 20.
That's a steal.
And he's born in August
steal.
too. So, you're talking about a guy that still has a lot more time to develop versus some of his peers. So it seems like a really good opportunity. And like I always say, what matters is after the draft. It's a marathon. It's not about draft day. It's about everything after.
Yeah, absolutely. So, very well put.
Yeah,
very well put.
I think Jarmo Kekalainen would agree with that. When he took Pierre-Luc Dubois over, the consensus guy, yes, he played Army.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. Yeah, looking like a genius now.
Exactly.
I'm telling you, man.
So let's transition then to number.
That's so good.
Yeah. So number 3.
So bad.
So number 3 on my list is Tristan Robbins, who I have ranked at 11, and he's actually ranked 63rd on future considerations. So that to me is another off the board like big steal that potentially could come in the draft. I've actually only seen his name on 2 lists other than mine, where he's a top 20 guy. So there are again some scouts that like what they see. The one comparable I love drawing to Tristan Robbins, so just to give you guys an idea, is Travis Konechny. So a guy that's
I know that's your boy, sir.
A guy that's a little diminutive, but a guy that just fights for
I like hard workers, man. I like hard workers, man.
Yeah,
great,
these guys
man.
like automotives. So this guy, crazy story. Last year, he plays for the Saskatoon Blades, which is a team in the WHL. Last year, he only had 25 points. But this year they had guys like Kirby Doc, Eric Florchuk, so some guys that were drafted in the NHL that now kind of moved on or moved into different positions. So it gave him an opportunity to be a top 6 guy. He actually played center this year, first line center. In his last 31 games, he had 51 points, which includes 23 goals. So another guy that ended the year really hot. A guy that every prognosticator seems to agree that he's a guy that just is going to fight you for every puck. And as we know, at the NHL, you can't just be skilled. You got to be willing to fight. So at 5'11", if he's going to play center, if he's going to play right,
he's going to provide value for your team in many ways.
That's my man right there.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely making note of him then.
Oh, absolutely. Saskatoon Blades got a good one.
All right, so who's number 4 on your list now?
My next guy is a guy by the name of Jan Mysak.
I like that name.
It's a cool name, man. He's a guy from the Czech Republic.
All right, it would make sense.
He's a guy that I currently have ranked at number 14, and the lowest ranking that I've seen him at is 34. That's on TSN, so that would include Craig Button and Bob McKenzie. So a little bit about my boy Jan Misak. The first thing that jumps to me, I mean, I don't want to be busting out statistics all the time because it's not just about the numbers,
of course,
which I will dwell into a little bit later. But Jan Misak was a guy that I don't know how familiar you guys are with prospects, but he played for the Czech Republic at the World Juniors, which is a tournament you guys have fortunately both been to.
You guys Connor McDavid, thanks for bringing that home for us.
Yeah.
Telling you, too good. And so yeah, he played at that tournament with a guy by the name of Jakub. I forgot his name, man. Shit, Jakub Lauko is his name. He's a third-round pick of the Boston Bruins. A guy that went in the third round that just had a lot of hype. And then there was another fellow on that team. I forget his name. I think it was Jan Jenik, who was drafted by Arizona. So these guys were kind of like penned in as the top 6. And within like 10 seconds, Lauko got injured. And then Jenik, their other big guy, kind of had to broke
up the trio of Jans, man.
Broke up the trio, man.
Jan.
Yeah. So Jan Misak.
Don't sleep on this one.
Don't sleep. Jan Misak came in there and yeah, too good. Jan Misak kind of came into that top 6 role. He had 2 points in like 4 games. 2 points in 7 games.
Okay.
So I mean, the numbers weren't there, but I think like the willingness to be used kind of all around the ice, just his smarts, just really, really impressed me. It actually reminded me a lot of a guy by the name of Brandon Saad, who you guys are probably both aware of. Second rounder.
I don't know if he's on. Like he fell so far down to earth. I don't even know if he's in earth or in hell. He might be in hell.
Yeah, too good. So
what team is he even on?
He ended up
back on that.
He's back
on the Hawks.
Yeah, but I think he's like on the what's their farm team? Rockford? Is it Rockford? Rockford. Yeah, he's with the Ice Hogs. He's with the Ice Hogs for sure.
But I mean,
top line, no doubt though. Top line, no doubt.
But hey, man, like I mean, he's making $6 million. Like,
Doing something, right?
Not complaining.
Oh, I'm telling you, man. So, I mean, he had a great World Junior tournament from that perspective.
Yeah, and you can't fault him. And we know international play is about
there's
chemistry.
A disparity too, right?
And it's such an importance factor on chemistry with your line mates.
Exactly.
And if 2 of your line mates just get destroyed, like you're not able to.
They are so good. They still made it to the quarterfinals. So I mean, it's impressive to see a Czech Republic team, deal with adversity like that and still come out with a respectful result.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a great tournament. Jan Misak, after the tournament, left the Czech Republic and came to his OHL team, the team that owned his rights, the Edmonton Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And he killed it, boys. He had 15 goals in 22 games. He averaged over a point a game. And again, a versatile player that played both center and wing. So here's a guy, again, that has a great motor. He can play anywhere around the ice and accentuate the players around him. So I mean, again, you might see Jan Misak go in the top 15. I've seen lists where he's gonna go to like a team like the Blackhawks at 17. So I mean, the potential is there, but I mean, I definitely think he's way better than going 34th overall, especially a guy that has exemplified the ability to acclimate so quickly into a new environment and dominate. So yeah, that's my guy at 4. Number 5 is actually.
I just actually want to follow up there with you on that one, because I feel like you said something really, really good there about just pro sports in general, and that's about the guys that can lift people around him. So I just wanted to expand a little bit on that, because look at even the Raptors and the Clippers, the way we talked about Kawhi Leonard and the way everyone in Toronto kind of got better just with that atmosphere, whether it was him or not. It just made the team better. Clippers didn't really have that. So how much of that is the other players, and how much can Jan really bring to the table in terms of making a team better for how quickly he might get into the game as well,
elevating the talent around him as well.
So I think it's the ability again to I feel like I say this with all the guys I love, because it's usually general trend is that two-way ability. So being able to get into the guts of the action, going to the net. If you're going to tip the puck, it's going to go in. You're going to get hit, and you know what? You're going to absorb that hit, get up, and skate back if you have to. So that relentlessness, I think, just. He
can lead by example there, right? The moment he gets rocked, gets up, it'll show everyone else this is the level of effort that's required.
Yeah, and then even just the ability, I mean, I like to compare it to like a facilitator role, so kind of like a LeBron James, where, I mean, it's not just about scoring. So, I mean, if he needs to pass the puck, he will pass the puck. At the end of the day, it's about winning and losing. It's not about putting stats up on.
And he's a guy who buys in. He clearly buys in, right?
Which, in my opinion, to kind of go back to Brandon Saad, I think maybe that's a reason why he did fall, is because, you know, you didn't really maybe like the numbers he put up in his draft year, but maybe they were like not considering all those other intangibles that he brings. So it really is the intangibles. It's the ability for a coach to say, hey, you know what, I want you to kill penalties because I think that you're going to be good at killing penalties. And so he goes on the ice. I mean, that goal that he scored was unbelievable. I mean, he just comes down the wing and he just pops it in. And I mean, again, he's not known to being, you know, a highlight reel goal scorer.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, you know, when the going was tough, Misak came in and he scored a big important goal. So I think, again, kind of going back to that whole, like, you know, you want that Anthony Cirelli type where it's a guy who's going to just score when you need him to score. If it's 5 goals or if it's a goal a game, the point is that he's scoring big goals when they need to be scored, as well as maybe getting those, you know, those easy goals as well, right? But he's just a sexy pick. And so
amazing. I love it. I love it. Just one last point before we move on to that one. You actually reminded me so much. So I'm a huge Portland Winterhawks fan in the WHL. So a lot of my favorite prospects of the last like maybe 10, 15 years are from that team. And I think we're the kings of, you know, having such a solid junior team. But then all of these guys get taken top 15 usually. Maybe I think Ratty fell to the very beginning of the second round. I think I remember that correctly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just think it's like Ryan Johansson, the way you said, looking at a two-way player from that age, I think that's a guy who struggled so much, such an incredible playmaker at that level. And he worked his ass off, gained like 20 pounds of muscle in that sophomore season just to be able to skate and dance with these big boys. And so you're really hitting the nail on the head here with what I believe a 21st century NHL prospect should have. And it's that grit. It's that ability to get it. Like Dylan Larkin, the way he plays, he's a little inconsistent, but that ability to move and to use the body, that's really becoming the tail of the tape now for a lot of these like younger guys, you know? It's getting difficult. Nino Niederreiter was the last guy I might have loved who could have maybe been like that, but unfortunately.
Maybe had too much love for that. This man take him in 12 straight fantasy drafts.
Swiss cheese, baby.
Dude, the amount of fantasy drafts this guy will take a flyer on him just to make sure when he does hit, nobody else has
you
it.
know what, I gotta tell you, man, I love Swiss players too. Kevin Fiala was one of my guys. I actually wanted the Flames to take, believe it or not, with that 4th overall pick. And I mean, you know what, like, when you like a player, you like a player.
Yeah, like I'd settle for 25 goals and about 200 hits, you know, in a really good season. I'm hoping he can do 30 and 200 one year, maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I think, like, you know, to add to your point, I think, you know, he's still relevant in the NHL because, again, he's going to get dirty. And I mean, again, I think coaches realize that. I mean,
there's a true appreciation to it.
But I mean, you know what, you got to be able to absorb those hits because if you don't,
come playoff time, you score in the dirty area. You're not coming.
Well, I mean, who's talking about Robbie Shrimp, right? Like, that was a guy that went.
Yes.
A super skilled guy.
That's a really old pick that you brought up.
But I mean, you know, like, is that a guy that maybe didn't, you know, make it or didn't realize that full potential because
he wasn't willing to buy in? Yeah, he wasn't willing to buy in. That's where I see Gaudreau going. But that's the conversation for another day.
It's amazing.
Hit me with your next one, man. Number 5.
So number 5 is probably another one of my favorites in the draft by the name of Luke Evangelista, who hails from the London Knights.
Okay.
So
hallelujah.
You know it's good when it's from London, man. Like, that's the truth. So I have Evangelista at 17. The lowest I've seen him ranked is actually 84th on future consideration. So clearly, future considerations and I do not agree on this player.
I mean, there seems like a few where they're just way off the board compared to you.
Yeah, it seems. I mean, I'm crazy, probably. But, you know, like,
I mean, your track record shows otherwise. I mean,
so yeah, a nice flyer on Luke Evangelista. I'll be honest. I mean, you know, I didn't know what to expect. I saw him. You know, I saw some highlight videos of him at the beginning of the year. He seemed to be really, really skilled. And so I'm gonna bust out a stat for you guys that I think just blew me away because here I am seeing a highlight reel of this guy and I'm like, man, this guy has hands, he has balls, and he has speed. Right? Like, what more does a guy need? So this stat blew me away. He had 61 points in, I believe, like 62 games. And of his 61 points, 59 points of his 61 points came either being 5-on-5 or short-handed.
I love that.
So, I mean,
I love everything about that.
Hey, you know me about that.
I mean,
Tirana, can you hear the man? Tirana, coming in. Tirana, can you hear the man?
And you know, it's funny because Kyle Dubas, who's, you know, their GM, actually chanced at Robert Thomas. And I honestly thought he was going to take Robert Thomas so badly, you know, that Toronto connection. And, you know, I don't even remember who they took now. I think it was like Timothy Liljegren, which, I mean, I'm sure he's still good, but I think Toronto fans would love
some Robbie
Yeah,
Thomas
for sure.
So, I mean, you know, to get a guy like Luke Evangelista, I think it's impressive because, you know, again, I mean, he has a motor. The guy kills penalties. They were not even using this man on the number one power play.
And he's still a point per game player.
Connor McMichael. Wow. So, I mean, Connor McMichael looks like, I mean, Washington, right? Like Ross Mahoney, complete genius, right? That's their director of scouting. But I mean, Connor McMichael is amazing. But I mean, Luke Evangelista, I really like. You know, he comes from a good program. You know, he was a first-round pick in the OHL entry draft. So I mean, you know, the pedigree is there. But to see a guy, you know, like make the most of his opportunity. Actually, I even saw him at the Top Prospects game. I think he was like on the third line with Antonio Stranges, and I can't remember the third guy. But I mean, he set up the first goal to Jeremy Poirier. Beautiful play. I mean, nobody could guard him. You know what I mean? Again, he was willing to get dirty going one-on-one, right? So those are the reasons why I like him. I think that the goal scoring is going to only increase when he gets more
opportunity. Yeah, exactly.
Power play, and being a focal point of that London Knights team. But I mean, we all know. I mean, if it's from London, you know, just take it. You know, like
absolutely.
Like I trust.
Shout out Nazem Kadri.
All they do is breed superstars or dudes who, you know, make it.
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, shit. If I had that thing, you know, I would take Luke Evangelista, no problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, like the stats.
That's a massive stat that you just threw out there in terms of 5-on-5 play, and that too just being shorthanded most of the time. I mean, that sells home to me, right? For sure. That's an incredible stat.
Those are the players you need on your team, you know?
Well, actually, that brings up another point. Like, could this be just a case of where maybe it's a man amongst boys at that level, and maybe it's a bit harder to transition? Because, I mean, going back to the Portland Winterhawks, I mean, that seems to be the precedence they set as a team a lot of the time, and they just don't transition individually to the next level.
Right. Yeah, and I would say that, I mean, my take is that much more, so it's emphasized even more in a guy like an Evangelista, if I'm understanding your question correctly, is that, I mean, if he's already so polished in so many other areas where you're hoping your top 6 potential prospect is going to end up as a forward, that, I mean, if he's already able to, you know, skate back and not necessarily care about, you know, putting up points, like I think a guy like Arthur Kaliev last year, I don't know if you guys remember Arthur Kaliev, but he was a second-round pick of the LA Kings. He was a guy that like was supposed to go like really high, right? Like, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had like a back-to-back 50-goal season in his 16-year-old year and his 17-year-old year. But a guy that was a goal scorer, but a guy that some prognosticators just thought was too lazy and too inconsistent. So I mean, you know, now you're hoping, if you're the LA Kings, that, you know, he's gonna
kind of teach.
He's gonna grow up.
That kind of stuff is hard. And you can't teach effort. You can't teach effort. And that's what I think. That's like, it's built in.
Yeah. So if you're talking about a guy that can score and he can be used anywhere, I mean, that's probably the general theme in my guys, is they have that ability.
Swiss Army knife, man.
Swiss Army knife guys that just, they will play wherever they will play, and they will look good.
Yeah, you got to buy in.
Yeah, because now you're looking for potential, and you're saying, hey, like, you know, like, now I'm going to give this guy, instead of like 15 minutes of ice time a game, to like 20, 25. Holy shit, dude. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm going to be stat watching this guy, you know, for the next upcoming year to see really like where his numbers end up. But I mean, again, even if he ends up on the 3rd line or the 4th line in the NHL, I mean, it's still a success because you got an NHL player out of it, right? And I mean, again, if this guy's going to kill penalties for you, like, those guys don't grow on trees. For sure. So
I think that's a great spin on your kind of question right there, Siraj. Is like, you can't teach this kind of stuff. So for somebody to be highly skilled and make them go into the dirty areas is a lot harder to do than somebody who's already bought in and said, I'm willing to do what's best for the team, you know?
100%. And that's what you need nowadays. Like, you can't just keep looking for the points, because one thing you'll notice about the NHL draft nowadays is guys who are able to get 60, 70 points at the junior level can still be found now in the end of 3rd, start of 4th round. Yeah, because frankly, teams need you think the Leafs should be drafting anyone that's trying to get points? I better fucking hope not. So I really like
Oilers.
I mean, do they even have enough draft picks for how many players they need in that caliber? I mean, I don't even know.
We're gonna get there. Don't you worry.
That's a tough one.
All right, that sounds good. So jump us into your final 2 players here.
Beauty, and these ones will come and go very quickly. So at number 6, I got a Russian This guy has a cool name, yo. His name is Shakir Mukamadulin.
Whoa! You know that's up our alley, man.
Yo, is this guy? This guy must. Yeah. If this guy is a family member in MMA, yo, put the house.
Yo, 100. So yeah, this gentleman is a 6'4" behemoth playing with the team Salavat Yulev, which is a team in the KHL. I'm pretty sure if we have any Russian fans, they are gonna hate that pronunciation. But yeah, great. He's about a half a point a game this year. Interesting prospect. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people just thought that, I mean, he was just an offensive defenseman that could shoot the puck. He obviously has that, having 6 points in 12 games. But I think his ability to be a little bit more responsible in his own end is coming. So he's actually a +5 right now in the KHL in his first 12 games. So, I mean, there is progress there.
In 12 games, you said?
Yeah, and he's about a point a game defenseman in the MHL, which is their junior league in Russia. So he's showing good promise. Big guy. I would take a swing here at, a top 20 pick. You're talking about a guy that has, good potential. He's huge, 6'4". My goodness.
Where's he projected to go?
There is starting to become a little bit more
hype around
for him.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now, McKean's Hockey has him at 72nd.
Wow.
So I'm pretty sure he's gonna go before that, just because, I mean, if you have a 6'4" offensive defenseman, like shit, dude, like
dime a dozen in the NHL.
Right? Like Colton Parayko right now. So I mean, in all honesty, like I'm pretty sure he'll probably go in the second round. The Russian factor will probably be a reason why he won't go in the first. But then at the same time, it's like they love Russians too. So I don't understand.
And to be honest, like Russian hockey's improvement in terms of becoming overall players.
That's a system development thing for sure.
Yeah, they've definitely improved that overall rounded game.
Kucherov is the best example.
That's the first name that came to mind.
Even Ivan Provorov.
Beautiful.
You're talking about
from a defensive standpoint. Interestingly enough, Ivan Provorov, the big reason that people say, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but he played so much hockey in North America, which is why at such a young age, it was like you brought a Russian player who has that natural suave and ability to skate, and then you put him was it the OHL that Provorov played in?
Provorov played for the WHL, the Brandon Wheat.
Okay, so I remember reading that he was one of the better defensemen in there, and the OHL is more defensive anyway, so that's probably why he got so much attention.
OHL is the best junior league.
I'm
from Alberta, and
and to play contrary to your point, we thought the same about Nail Yakupov, and that did not help him whatsoever.
Which is funny though, Nail Yakupov is more so kind of the classical figure, right? Provorov is very, I think he played even longer, because they say that almost from a very young
North America, you mean?
he was exposed to North American hockey longer than the average Russian-born player was. I remember them saying something along those lines. So, which is what made me really like him in terms of just a draft prospect to keep an eye on, because that was the selling point. And like you said, Nail Yakupov, a guy that we know played Sarnia, and he's absolute trash. Trash.
Galchenyuk was the same thing, right? He's not trash, but he didn't live up to his hype, and he was one of those guys that had that same mantra, right? Played a lot of his junior hockey in North America type thing.
Exactly.
Well, he's a half American, right? So his dad's Russian.
Right.
His dad's Russian, and I think he grew up in Minnesota or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so who's number 7, man?
I was just gonna add one last thing.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, that archetype of what a Russian player is, I think we all kind of agree that it is changing. You got guys like Kucherov. You got guys like
the well-rounded.
So I mean, what's Shakir Mukamadulin, right? I mean, I want that guy on my team just so I can say Shakir.
I'm buying that
jersey bought. I'll get Shakir. You get the rest of the name.
I'll just put Shaq with the K, man.
That's sponsorship money right there, man. Oh, Jesus. But I mean, in all honesty, whoever I think is going to get this guy is going to be very lucky. He's
good to know.
I think it'd be good. Yeah. So, and then my last guy is a little bit off the board, like all my guys are.
This is what we like, though.
I love it.
I got this guy ranked number 21, and the lowest ranking I see him at is 51 on TSN. So I'm not going up against Bob McKenzie or Craig Bunman. Those are like paid staff guys. But I will say that Thomas Bordeleau, he kind of came out of nowhere for me. So this is a guy that had a point-a-game season this year. He's going to the University of Michigan next year, so a very good program. Like Quinn Hughes went there, Kyle Connor went there. So we know it's a good school that he's going to.
I'm very high on Hughes.
But just just honing in on this guy though. I actually was really interested in Brendan Brisson, who's also eligible for this draft, and this other kid named Ty Smilanic. They're both centers. So Brendan Brisson has a connection to the NHL because his dad's a player agent. Pat Brisson, you probably heard that.
Oh yeah.
Hundreds of times.
Oh, he's getting put on the team.
Yeah. He's gonna make that shit work for sure.
Shout out Austin Rivers.
For sure. But yeah, so Thomas Bordeleau wasn't a guy that I was expecting to see. But he's a guy that just the more I saw him, the more I loved. He reminds me a lot of Tuvo Teravainen. So you're talking about the guy.
I knew that would get your juices flowing. I knew that would get your juices flowing.
That's the team. That's the team right now.
Oh, I'm telling you, man, I love Tuvo Teravainen. Imagine how mad I was as a Calgary Flames fan in 2012.
Could have easily
when I'm hearing
had
that Mark Jankowski is going to be
Jankowski.
the best player in 10 years.
Yeah.
You have the 14th pick. This man fell. I don't know why.
That's a feaster special. Feaster feasted.
You remember that.
Mark my words, Jay. I'm marking your words. He's the best player in 10 years, and you are wrong.
Yeah.
So,
what's worse, Feaster passing on him or Chicago letting him go?
Oh, Chicago.
Right? I think that one burns a little bit more.
Yeah.
In the NHL, getting a centerman, you're going to have to draft them. So if Thomas Bordeleau is a guy that, is a little underappreciated to be a first rounder, I don't care, because if he's playing in the NHL at the end of the day, those are the hardest guys to draft.
Absolutely.
And if you get a top 6 here, I'm telling you, man, who wouldn't take an NHL top 6 center with that pick?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? You have teams in the top 10 going for that. So anyways, Thomas Bordeleau, guys.
Look out for him.
Look out for him.
Love it. Love the picks. Love the picks. These are amazing players you brought up. You hit the nail on the head, especially for maybe a classical thinker like me, who's liking all these Canadian boys who can put up the points. Ooh, Canadians are naturally two-way players. Well, nah, when Adam Larson pumped Ryan Johansson into the World Junior net, I remember that that's not always the case. And so, for those picks. Exactly. Those are beautiful picks.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Awesome. So let's move on to that second segment now. Team needs. We're going to focus on Canadian teams right now and sprinkle in maybe a few contenders here and there. But right now, obviously, Canada hasn't won a cup in a very, very
1993,
long time.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Montreal.
The Habs in 93. So, maybe you can help us, shore up some of these Canadian squads,
I'll do my best. So let's start off. So I'm going to basically go in the draft order. So the first team I see here is the Ottawa Senators, who have 3 first-round picks.
We know they got a few more than just a few holes.
Did you say 3 or 30?
3. I know, but it should have been 30.
That's what I mean. I was like, okay, at least they did what they did.
The entire first round we dedicate to the Ottawa Senators.
I know. Could you imagine?
They would still need help.
Oh yeah, help drafting too.
I would not be surprised. So they have 3 picks. The first pick they own is, I believe, at 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
The second pick they own is at 5. And then the last pick, I believe, is at 28. So, based on the rankings, the consensus rankings, with that third pick, if I'm Ottawa, I'm praying to God Tim Stützle falls to me. So if you guys don't know, Tim Stützle is like a super uber talented centerman. I'm not going to say he's the next Elias Pettersson because, man, shit, if I'm wrong. How hard is it to get an Elias Pettersson? But, if he is the next Elias Pettersson, man, you are more than stoked to get him at 3. So there are some talks, some teams like Quinton Byfield, there's talks at some teams like Tim Stützle. So there is a possibility for Stützle to fall. So I would say that if I'm Ottawa, that's the direction I go, is I just take that centerman that, looks like he's going to be a high-end, high-octane number 1 center that, can put some more goals in.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's definitely one of the things they need.
Yeah. And like you said earlier, most important position on a team in the NHL
by far
is centerman. Is the hardest thing to find, and the only way you're gonna find is the draft. Because if you have one, nobody's giving it out.
Exactly.
You know what's crazy is like how easy it is that people think they are to find. It's the hardest position to develop in the NHL.
Absolutely.
It's just so difficult.
Ask Johnny Gaudreau.
Oh,
Right?
I'm telling you, man. I mean, and you know, like that's the thing, right? I mean, even guys like Jamie Benn, if I'm not mistaken, actually started off playing center.
Yeah.
Yeah, then he got moved to the left wing. Exactly.
Yeah, and I mean, we all love Jamie Benn and his scoring ability, but I mean, maybe it's better if he plays wing. So
It's hard to be a two-way versatile center.
It is. So I mean, you know, even just looking at their roster right now, I mean, I'm sure we all like Cullen White, but I'm sure we all want a little bit more.
Yeah.
They did lose Jean-Gabriel Pajot in that trade.
Underrated man.
That was another guy I wanted the Flames to.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that would.
Diminutive.
He's a perfect second, third line center. That
2011 fourth round pick hurt me, yo, because I'm just sitting here saying, yo, Flames, please take it, please take it, please take it. This man goes to the fourth round, but you know, the rest is history. So yeah, I'll go on to their next pick now. So their next pick is at 5.
Okay.
This one's a little bit off the board, I think, to some, but man, Ottawa needs more than just centers. I can't even say it properly. Ottawa needs more than centers. They've drafted a shitload of defensemen the last few years. I mean, we love Jacob Bernard-Docker. We love Lassie Thompson. I think now is the opportunity here to just go off the board, take Yaroslav Askarov, who, according to some, he's the best goaltender.
As we said, shore up that tending, right?
Yeah, since Carey Price. So, I mean, even if he's 60% of Carey Price, shit, I'm taking that all day.
Yeah, it still beats 36-year-old Craig Anderson.
Exactly, dude. Who they're not even keeping.
Yeah, I saw, yeah.
And like the draft rankings add up too, because it's so rare to see goalies go so early in the draft. But I mean, there's a handful of guys like Marc-Andre Fleury when he got drafted. I mean, these are game changers type goalies. You know,
absolutely.
These are guys who can jump in now. They're ready.
Well, and I mean, you know what? You're looking at if you're Ottawa. I mean, they got Marcus Hogberg. They had Anders Nielsen, who's like around 30.
Yes.
So, I mean, they got a good stopgap. But man, if you're telling me that I have a franchise goalie here, I mean, shit, I'm just taking Askarov. And I mean, you know, we look at guys like Samsonov, who Washington has. We look at Vasilevsky. I mean, you know, like I think there is more trust. I mean, the Edmonton Oilers took Ilya Konovalov in the 3rd round last year, I believe. So, I mean, you know, there is more confidence going towards taking a Russian goaltender. But when you're talking about,
look at our Stanley Cup Finals this year.
Exactly.
Versus Vasilevsky.
You know what's crazy is funny story. So Nikolai Abibulin, if I'm not mistaken, played for the Tampa Bay Lightning. He's Russian. You know,
that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
You know, he was speaking very highly on Askarov too, saying that he's something like, you know, the best goaltender I think he's like seen. Sorry, he was comparing him to Vasilevsky. So I mean, that's one of the greatest goalies to play our game, to play our sport. And then
the Bulin Wall.
The Bulin Wall. So if he's the next Bulin Wall, I'm taking that shit all day. Are you kidding me? All day.
Or you could have just kept Leonard. But
exactly. Oh my goodness gracious.
I mean, but why do you want an injury-prone MMA fighter? Like, there's no reason. Move on. Move on from that.
Shit, man. Yo, it's Ottawa pick here at 28. I think you gotta take what else you need. You know, those 2 defensemen that we really like are right-handed defensemen. So I thought about it and I said, you know what? If I'm Ottawa, I mean, when they took Bernard Docker, it was a little off the board according to most lists. Same thing with Lassie Thompson. I think I'm going to just swing for the fences here and go with a guy named Ryan O'Rourke.
Okay.
So just to give you guys a little background, Ryan O'Rourke was a captain for his junior team, so Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. So Kyle Dubas was a GM there. He had to take him because they needed a defenseman too. I'm not trying to foreshadow. So I mean, but I mean, if a guy like a Ryan O'Rourke is available, you know, you're getting a guy who's a captain. At the Top Prospects game that I watched, he was the best defenseman. I thought those 2 outlet passes for Team White to score was Ryan O'Rourke. So you know, you're talking about a guy that, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had over 7 goals too this year. So, you know, you're not really caring so much about the offense because they also have Eric Brandstrom, but you're caring about a guy who, again, has passion, who has
can play on that left side.
And he's going to hit you when he needs to hit you. And I mean, Ryan O'Rourke is a guy that the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds clearly love. So that's the direction that I would go.
Sick.
Yeah, so that's my Ottawa scoop.
All right, up next we got the Winnipeg Jets
at 10. And how is this fair that the Winnipeg Jets
have
the 10th overall pick?
Right?
They just won Patrick Laine in that draft lottery, and now they have the 10th pick. Like, I'm a Flames fan.
Shifley was top 5, no?
7th. I think 7th.
Seventh.
No, wait a minute. Was it Couturier that went 7th? They went like right
Yeah,
behind each other.
I thought Shifley went higher, but yeah.
But I mean, like to see it, like I'm a Flames fan. I feel like we only beat them because they were injured.
Yeah.
Like, man, I'm scared. Don't tell me you weren't
Oh,
scared.
100%.
Man, they traded Trueball. Who is Neil Pionk?
If
man?
Dustin Buff
Jesus.
just even wanted to play, it would have been a different series.
Yeah, so Kevin Cheveldayoff's group, I mean, their director of scouting, I believe, just retired. I think last year was his like last year, so I don't know if
Confirming 7th round on Shifley.
Seventh overall.
Yeah. Because like I remember that team, because that draft was fucking
It was 7th.
beautiful.
Fire.
Yeah.
Fired at me to remembering that. That was a
Yeah.
long time ago, man. That was 9 years ago. Man. So I mean, if they're gonna have a different director of scouting, I don't know what direction they truly go in. But I mean, if I'm Winnipeg, you lost Bufflin, you lost Trouba. I like their forwards. Who's that guy that played on the 4th line again? He looked really good. Adam Lowry, I think.
Yeah.
He looked amazing.
Yeah.
So I mean, Winnipeg always drafts well, but I mean they draft defensemen well too. I would go in and I mean if I'm going to talk about examples, Dylan Sandberg is a guy they drafted in the 2nd round a couple of years ago who's just, I mean, he can play defense and that man is huge. And that team is already so big.
Yeah. They punish.
They are big boys. So when I'm thinking about who the Jets can take here at 10, there's 2 guys I have in mind. One is Jake Sanderson. So Jake Sanderson is the son of Jeff Sanderson, who again is also connected to Thawerful Whalers. I don't think he'll be available. I think he's too good.
Okay.
I don't want to be too opinionative, but he's my highest ranked defenseman.
Okay.
And I would be shocked if he was available at 10.
At 10, yeah.
So the next defenseman I'm thinking is probably Caden Gooley.
Okay.
So Caden Gooley, he has good pedigree. His brother Brendan Gooley was a 2nd round pick of the Buffalo Sabres in 2015.
Okay.
This guy was the number 1 draft pick in his bantam draft or his junior draft.
Yeah. Okay.
So in the WHL draft, he went number 1.
Oh wow.
And that man can punish, that man can play, and that man can skate. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Winnipeg went off the board if they were going to take a defenseman to take
and really fill that need of the glaring defenseman that they're now missing. And even Tyler Myers they had at one point, right? Like they've lost, the core of their defenseman. Toby Enstrom ain't playing anymore. So they address that need.
So I mean, Billy Manola is a guy they took last year, but I mean, God knows when he's going to be ready, if he's going to end up materializing to be like a legit NHL player. So he had like 5 points in his first 8 games. He's a guy with a nice future, but I think at the same time you got to keep building. Yeah. So I mean, there's talks they might go with a guy named Seth Jarvis, who's from Winnipeg at 10, who's a right winger.
Yeah.
But I mean, with guys like Patrick Laine there, Jack Russell.
Yeah, address the need.
I think that's more of a need. Their forwards just seem to play really good, and then Nikolai Ehlers, who can play right wing too, who came back to life in the playoffs. Yeah. So I think that going defense probably would make sense.
Would make the most sense.
And if they're lucky, I mean, watch Winnipeg get Anton Lundell, who it's criminal if Anton Lundell goes to Winnipeg. That's just not fair. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen.
So right now, their draft is basically all based on if other teams let certain guys slide by the sounds of it, because there's a lot of people that they might be able to capitalize on later in the draft by the sounds of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
And I mean, like it seems like they have depth everywhere too. So that adds to your point that I mean, going best player available.
Exactly, it's so easy.
I mean, if you're a fan of the Calgary Flames, you're like, shit, dude. These guys just got another top 10 pick. Like, this is not fair, dude.
Yeah.
This is criminalistic, dude. This is not fair. Like, I'm jealous as a Flames fan.
Of course.
Calgary, man,
we should probably go to the next team before this man blows the lid.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to introduce the next team, but the next team actually has even more of this mantra that frustrates us, and that's the Edmonton Oilers, who get gift after gift after gift. So we're actually going to save them for another segment and move on to your team, Siraj, the Toronto Maple Leafs.
All right, biggest holes maybe, other than maybe Ottawa.
So before we start, I just wanted to ask you, I mean, what are your thoughts when they traded Kasperi Kapanen for that 15th pick? And there's some people, I'm not saying that it's like a legit source, but there's some people that are saying that they are going to give this pick to the St. Louis Blues for Alex Pietrangelo, who, if I'm not mistaken, is like a free agent.
He's a free agent.
Pies. I said this to you when, bro, do you remember when he got announced that he was a free agent? I actually put out an Instagram post on his page. I'm like, hey, remember, you're from King City. Come home.
it's funny. The highest probability for him to go somewhere is one of our two teams. So
I gotta ask you though, like, how do the Maple Leafs afford?
Here's my thing. When you kind of asked me a question there, and it goes hand in hand with that. Now, what I would have preferred, I know everyone really seems to love Nylander, but it's a money's game too, right? At the end of the day, 100%. We did lock down a bunch of guys for a certain amount of money. Now, your cap space is only so much. So if I need to fill 12 guys to get my 4 lines of offense going, it's the 16 guys. I was right, the 12 guys. I'm going to have to try and figure out how to fill out those last 2, right? And so for my main problem with the Leafs right now is we can play regular season hockey, but when it comes time for some of these guys to hit that 20-minute mark and play two-way hockey, none of them can do it. So whether it's a D-man that helps us in that regard, because I don't need offense from my defensive line either, or a center that can even put up maybe 20, 30, I'll even say points, not even goals. Give me 30 points and just the most consistent defense that I can see from an NHL-ready player. That's all I'm looking for. I'm a simple guy. I don't need any more of this. If we should have considered trading Nylander when we were on slight fritz with him, but we seem to get more into this personal battle of contracts and that kind of thing, and we had to lock him down.
Ego came into play there for sure.
It did. Too much for me.
And I don't mean to, put any salt in the wound, but you're wearing an Avalanche jersey who Nazem Kadri went to, and I hate to say it, man, but for his contract benchmark wise, that was like
that's a
one
great
of the
value.
best.
He's a great value contract.
And that's my point too, is that it always comes down to the fact that you're dealing with a cap. So I love Tavares too. We all love Tavares, but
is that what you need?
If that's a foreseeable problem, if I'm not mistaken, I think Morgan Riley's contract is coming up soon. That you only have so much money.
And you could make the argument that might be the highest paid player on our team, right? There's a really good argument for that Morgan Riley should be our highest paid player. So for me, I just don't understand where we plan on going with what we have. And our original mistake was committing to Nylander, bringing back all that stupid Leafs Nation fanfare, and now it's going to be even harder to get rid of players because everyone gets so attached to the dick that at the end of the day, it's like, oh my God, no matter what you do in Toronto, everyone's sad. Everyone's upset.
Well, I'm not going to add more salt to this one, but I'm going to just say it once. But how funny is it that the Islanders went further with trade? While
giving up their quote-unquote best player.
But that goes to show you, right? You need guys that care. I'm not suggesting anything, but Sheldon O'Keefe, new coach, all these new additions.
It's hard to bring the best out of a vet, right?
But so you want to galvanize that group, and maybe a trade is the way to go. But I would struggle with giving up a pick for a guy like Pietrangelo.
So who do you think they should actually be looking at? So here we go.
So now, I probably alluded to this, but a right-handed defenseman, I think fits the bill. So if I'm going to go right-handed defense, Craig Button mentioned this, going Braden Schneider, who's from St. Albert, Alberta, who plays for the Brandon Wheatcakes, the same team as Ridley Gregg. Just a guy, I see a lot of Travis Hamonic, a guy that's, he puts up points. At the end of the day, you're the Toronto Maple Leafs.
You don't need somebody else.
You were the third highest scoring team before you got John Tavares.
Yes.
So you don't need any more goals. You need a guy, I think, similar to a Muzzin, maybe on the right side, that can just throw hits. You got Dermott coming. You have Liljegren coming. So you got some nice pieces coming. But
that's what I like to hear.
Let's make that back end stronger. So a guy like a Braden Schneider makes a lot of sense to me. And then, going back to losing a center like a Kadri, I would argue that, even if they went and got a center, Nick Robertson's a guy they drafted in the second round, who you guys are probably aware of. He had some NHL time, I think in the bubble. Yeah, he did. And he looked good, but we were talking about Ryan Poehling last year, got a hat trick in his first game, and who's talking about Ryan Poehling now?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm just saying that, man.
And for a team like this with that much up front, you need some stability at the back there. Right?
So the two centers that I have in mind, one is who is he again? It's Dylan Holloway.
Okay.
So Dylan Holloway is a center that, I think that the Toronto Maple Leafs could use. He averaged about a half a point a game in his first year in the NCAA, playing with Wisconsin. But, he did play in the Alberta Junior Hockey League, which is the same league as Cale Makar came from. And he had over 40 goals. He's played with the Canadian U18 team. So, everybody's talking about how the University of Wisconsin just had a really weird, bad year. So maybe it's that, again, last year, Alex Turcotte, who went super high to the LA Kings. Yeah. He even struggled too. So maybe it's just, the team and not the player. I think that would be a great player, to bank on. And then another one, here's a one that's off the board, a Swedish player who plays for Frölunda. He was a point a game in their junior league system last year, but he was injured and he was still a point a game. So, he's playing in the juniors this year. He had 13 points in 7 games, almost 2 points a game. He's now playing with Lucas Raymond, who is probably going to be a lottery pick. That's a foregone conclusion that he's a lottery pick, and his name is Theodor Niederbach. So, I mean, a guy that, is a two-way gritty guy. He reminds me a little bit of JT Compher, just a guy that can do it all. And man, shit, we all need more centers.
Yeah.
So,
could definitely use some more JT
this guy is
Compher's
another
in this
NHL
world,
centerman, I mean, again, like that's all I care about.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. So what about the Habs, my friend?
So the Habs, who have, I should have said, the Toronto Maple Leafs are selecting at 15. But so the Habs are going in at 16. This one's a little bit of an off-the-board pick again, but there's a guy who reminds me a lot of Torrey Krug. So I think defense is the way to go for the Montreal Canadiens, just because, you have all these young studs coming up, that, they got via trade or they drafted. So like a Nick Suzuki, a Jesperi Kotkaniemi. I mean, even a few years ago, Arturi Lehkonen, who, who's looking legit.
Yes, very much so.
Domi in that trade, they have some good pieces up front. Carey Price is still Carey Price. Yes. And I think if Askarov has gone here, like, I'm not taking goaltender, and I think most people would agree with that. That would be that would be asinine, right? So anyways, I'm thinking
a sign and trade potential there. So I mean, it happens a lot in other leagues where
possibly
like a draft and trade kind of thing happens. The NFL is notorious for it. So it's one of those things where, like, in the NHL, you don't see it as much, where people reflect to go to another team. But I mean, is there maybe an option for them? Because I mean, he seems like an NHL-ready goalie, so the Habs are not really a best fit. If he was like a little, 2 years away from being 2 years away, that's the perfect fit for them. But unfortunately, that's not the case. So do you see any kind of potential there, where maybe they just either trade it away for someone?
You don't want to leave. Yeah, you don't want to leave best available on the board, right?
Yeah, I mean, and it is tough to say, because like, I mean, I think like, I mean, even a guy like Ryan Poehling, like, again, right, scored a hat trick his first game. You don't really know what the upside is. I mean, if there's another roster player that's, a placeholder for a Ryan Poehling, now you have to gauge, right? Like, do I believe enough in Ryan Poehling? Does he still need 2 to 3 years? Like, what am I looking at? And I mean, they had that miraculous playoff run where, who did they upset? Was it the Pittsburgh Penguins? So, I mean, you're talking about a team that, I mean, they have a reason to be proud. I mean, this is biased because, like, I love prospects. I don't ever want to trade first round picks, right? Like, that one's hard for me. Like, can you imagine if the Flames didn't give up those 2 first round picks? They kept their pick and they took Matthew Barzal. Jesus. That's a Jesus moment right there, right?
Well, I mean, the Leafs have the best example, right? With that Phil Kessel trade. That's a slap in the motherfucking face.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, to give them some credit, those 2 guys, Dougie Hamilton and Tyler Seguin, can't win a cup. Like, we saw what Seguin did. No offense, Tyler Seguin, don't come after me. But, like, they didn't win a cup and they got traded. So, I mean, man, Brian Burke's a pretty smart guy sometimes. Like, sometimes I'm like, man, what is this man saying? All I hear is pugnacity and synonyms of that word. But, I mean, the guy did go to Harvard for a reason. So, I mean, I love that man. I mean, I love him too, man. I just want to wear a tie around my neck, like, just over this jersey. Even though it's not fashionably appropriate, but I think I might, right? Just to pay some homage to the
I never seen a man go to work like it was the end of his work day. Like, that's what
it's like, work has just started. It's 7 in the morning. Like, I don't understand.
Man looks spent already.
He's tired.
Berkey, you're being called in makeup. I already went there.
You sure?
So yeah, I mean, I think if I'm the Montreal Canadiens, kind of going back to full circle now, I mean, I think if I'm going to keep my pick, I mean, I want a left-handed, offensive defenseman, just a defenseman that, I believe in, like an Eric Branson, like, a Torrey Krug, like one of those diminutive type of defensemen that, if they're going to come in year 1, they're going to come in year 4. It doesn't matter. So if I told you that you could get a 5'9" defenseman who's really small, but he was the captain of his junior team, he's been a point a game everywhere he's played. And I mean, honestly, his defense is pretty good. So now you're talking about a guy that, like a Sammy Vatanen type or a Torrey Krug type, like a guy that he's just not like nice to look at. He's not sexy to look at because he's 5'9", 5'10". But when he's on the ice, you're looking at the stat sheet and you're like, oh shit, he's still there. So Emil Andre is the guy that I'm thinking of. I know it's a little bit off the board. I have Emil Andre at 31, but I want an offensive defenseman if I'm Montreal.
Especially right now, you can learn from Shea Weber.
That's what I was just gonna say.
And Jeff Petrie. Yeah. So I mean, you know what? Like the unit becomes stronger cohesively, and then it results in those rookies that they have up front just looking better than they already do.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah.
Mark Brown and his group are really smart guys.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if they went that direction. I mean, they took a 5'7" guy last year. And
Size does not seem
Brendan
to
Gallagher,
be an issue.
we all know Brendan Gallagher.
Exactly.
So size doesn't seem to be the issue.
Yeah.
Victor Mete, another diminutive defenseman that they actually draft, albeit not in the first round. But I mean, we've already seen guys like Brandstrom go top 15. Like, I don't see a diminutive defenseman like that being
available,
problem, right? And I mean, Quinn Hughes, I'm not comparing him to Quinn Hughes, but a 5'10" defenseman, he could be on my team
any day.
I will take that.
So speaking of my team, let's move on to our team, the Calgary Flames.
Brad Treliving, one of the best GMs with the salary cap. My goodness.
Nice stingy man there, you know?
A smart, stingy man. So the Flames currently have, the 19th pick. So if I'm Calgary, your thoughts. What I'm thinking is, hey,
get Johnny some time.
Yeah, get Johnny
him
some time,
a real center to play with.
Or, I mean, ever since Jerome Iginla, who have the Calgary Flames drafted in the first round that's like a right-handed player or a guy that can play center or right wing.
Wing and D. Left wing and D, that's all we draft.
Yeah. Left wing and D is all it seems like they draft, which, I mean, I love Jakob Peltier, so, I mean, love there. But, I mean, if I'm the Calgary Flames here, I mean, with those defensemen that I mentioned to you guys earlier that I really like, I don't think they're going to be there. If I'm Calgary, I think now's the time, honestly, to go off the board. Last year, actually, when the Flames lost in the playoffs, Johnny pissed me off. I'm not going to lie to you. So when Johnny pissed me off, I said, hey, you know what? If I'm the Flames right now, I trade him to Philadelphia for Travis Sanheim and Travis Konechny, which to me would have been a dream. I don't know if people...
I don't know if you would take it.
Yeah, but now that's for sure not happening.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, I would even do good draw for Konechny. I digress. So Konechny is a guy I really like. As I mentioned earlier, Tristan Robbins is a guy I think I would go off the board and take.
Okay.
Because you're talking about a guy, again, who's a two-way player, a guy that can play center. He hits... We love Pugnasty here in Calgary, and a guy that, I mean, sky's the limit. And again, I mean, we have enough guys in our roster right now where, I mean, even if it's going to be 2 to 3 years, it's okay.
It's okay.
You want the best that you can get, the best career that you can get here. And if I'm the Calgary Flames, I go off the board. Yeah. So that's.
I mean, and I agree, it's the biggest glaring hole on our team. Yeah. A number one center. Unless this goaltender that you're saying is available, I would also consider that.
For sure.
Only Cam Talbot can only take.
I can't do a backflip, and I would try to do a backflip. So hopefully I don't break my back, but I would at that point.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a few goaltenders. I think we can explore that as well. But if not, address that number one center and get Gaudreau some talent.
Yeah, and another reason why I didn't point to defensemen, I'll just say, there's defensemen you can get later, like a Luke Prokop, who a 6'4", 6'5" defenseman that plays for the Calgary Hitmen. So I mean, it's nice to have some relatability there. I mean, even if you want to take him later, you take him later. I mean, Calgary is the team that drafted Adam Fox. Calgary is the team that drafted, all these defensemen, right? Shillington. Who's the other guy? Rasmus Anderson. Yeah. Guys that they didn't take in the first round. That I have confidence in Todd Button's scouting ability to just go find some guys a little later and just take my guy.
Yes, of
because
course.
You know what? I mean, it's going to seem like a surprise to most on draft day, but you just drafted one of the hardest positions that, I mean, it's proven. You haven't really had much success in. So let's go grab a guy who's a right winger, a center, who can hit, who wants to play. And then again, he just galvanizes that group. I'm down all day. On to the next, my friend.
And so the last team we would talk about is the Vancouver Canucks, but they don't have a first-round pick, and they seem to be doing all right. So we're just going to move on.
Are you serious?
They don't even have a first-round pick, man.
No trades or nothing? They can't do anything? Come on, man.
No, leave the squad, man. You're on the right path.
So there's just a quick recap. You don't believe that there's anyone, even hypothetically, because I know the general idea of this was to kind of provide a draft pick in terms of needs for a team, but do you see any of these teams at all in a position to be like, you know what, based on what I'm going to get around here, it's not going to work out for me. Let me see what I might be able to do with a trade of that pick. Maybe a Gaudreau in first round pick and get you something actually good.
Yeah. I mean, I would love that. That's something that I would love seeing as a fan. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that.
But they don't have a first round pick to trade, right?
Yeah.
No.
Well, who are we talking about?
Vancouver.
No, we're talking. We're talking about Calgary. We're talking about Calgary.
He's just talking about
trade Vancouver to Calgary.
No. Yeah, generally, that's a great example. Yeah, that's a great example of where an upgrade to Gaudreau with what a first round pick could bring you is a massive game changer.
Absolutely.
That's where I think at the end of the day, say Pietrangelo this was the trade deadline and it was a regular NHL season without all this craziness. That actually might be a tangible trade with a couple throw-in pieces. You never know. So I was just thinking along those lines, there's probably a team in there that might try to do some damage. Me and actually Pies were talking about a really great example. Corey Schneider getting traded for that 9th overall pick. And back then, everybody was like, wow.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? Then he went to die in New Jersey, and Horvat's leading a team that could win a cup in the next 5 years.
Exactly.
Even Bobby Lou, who got you Markstrom in the end, right? Got you Markstrom in the end.
How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
So, I think kind of going back to your point, can you talk now? Or you'll just cut it back in, right? So, yeah, I think absolutely. I think that, but again, we don't know what these teams are thinking of when they're saying, okay, my asset management is at best when I'm going to keep this player or I'm going to trade this player. Because, like you and I talked about this even last year. Yeah. I think I would have traded Gaudreau. Especially because I saw Matt Tkachuk play and
I was pushing to go trade for his brother. Gaudreau for Brady could have happened, but not anymore.
Made me a happy man.
Not anymore.
So, even looking at
no chance.
Yeah, no chance, I don't think. But to finish saying, I completely agree with you that, but again, we're not general managers, so we don't know what's on the table
or not.
But absolutely.
You got to explore those options.
If you're in Calgary's position now and you're saying, hey, you know what, our window's 2 years because Gaudreau's contract is up in 2 years. If they're going to get a legitimate player, let's just say Michael Granlund doesn't re-sign with the Predators it's both sides agree that it makes sense to make a trade. I'm going to do that, right? I'm going to maybe give up a pick because Michael Granlund fits my needs right now. I have a window right now. I'm trying to win now, so I'll do it. So, I absolutely agree. But again, not knowing all this, objectively speaking,
stay part of the course.
This is what I say.
Because Granlund's a great example of a player who might just need a change of scenery too. Because his ceiling is just so high.
Well, even Ryan Johansson.
Look at the two teams he's played on, right?
Look at
Minnesota and Nashville. I'm sorry, you're not going to pull out your best offensive skills on those teams.
Even Ryan Johansson, right? How was he in Columbus versus how he was in Nashville?
Exactly.
So, absolutely.
So that was solid. We're going to move into the next segment here.
I'm excited for this one.
So this one's going to be more of a little rapid fire segment, okay? We know contenders. We know teams that are just that close to winning. They may need 1 or 2 more pieces to get there. So I'm going to rifle off 5. I need you to give me a name and a positional need that could help round out these teams, okay? So the first one we're going to start with, they're always in the mix. They're always this close. They've won, the Boston Bruins.
Okay. The Boston Bruins don't own the first round pick.
Okay.
I'm still taking Jeremy Poirier,
a
left-handed defenseman from the St. John Seahawks.
Perfect. Address that Chara aging need, right? Exactly.
Beautiful.
All right, next one.
Love it.
Philadelphia Flyers.
Philadelphia Flyers have a first-round pick. At 23, they love Claude Giroux. Why not take Jacob Perreault, a right winger from the Sarnia Sting?
Perfect. Love it.
Would you say he has immediate impact ability in the NHL?
Well, looking at how good Philadelphia is,
they don't really need him.
Joel Farabee is a guy. I think that came out of nowhere. So I think so in Philly's case, I think that if he's ready, he's ready. If the opportunity is there, it's there. But they are so rich now with Carter Hart and all those beautiful defensemen that it doesn't.
Opportunity might not be there.
I don't mean to cut you off, but that's that's my 2 cents on that one.
Perfect. Las Vegas Knights.
The Las Vegas Golden Knights have a shit ton of good forwards. They took Peyton Krebs last year. I'm thinking defenseman Shakir Mukhamadullin, the 6'4".
Ooh, that's my boy. Let's get it. Yeah. Shakir.
I will buy that Knights jersey 100%. Colorado Avalanche.
The Colorado Avalanche, man, they got forwards for days. They took Alex Newhook last year. They have what was the pick that they owned this year? It was a mid-20s pick. I'm thinking that they go Helgi Grands, an offensive defenseman from Malmo, Sweden.
I like it.
I love it.
Rounding out our contenders, the St. Louis Blues.
St. Louis Blues might be losing Pietrangelo. Yep. They got an aging defensive core. What's his name? What's that big guy's name again?
J-Bo.
Parayko is old as fuck. J-Bo is even older, man. So I'm thinking defenseman. I'm thinking two-way defenseman. There's a guy a bit off the board I have in the second round, Eamon Powell.
Awesome.
From the U.S. National Team Development Program.
Nice hot takes there. All right, so moving on to the next part. This is where we kind of talked about the Edmonton Oilers a little bit.
Right, yeah.
And so we're going to coin this Dire Straits. A few teams that truly need a lot more than 1 round pick of help. They need some drafting assistance.
And a new owner.
I'm not going to comment on that one.
So
a few teams that we think could really use some help. They have some good pieces, especially the Oilers, who have arguably the top 2 players in the NHL. They struggle to round out these players. So let's start with the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, the Detroit Red Wings. I mean, they need help everywhere. I mean, I hate to say it, but
It's fair.
they
It's
do.
fair.
It's fair. So, I mean, it's difficult. Like, I mean, I love the pick of Zadina. I mean, I know they're getting a lot of shit for it because Quinn Hughes went the next pick.
Of
But,
course.
I mean, it was a good pick. I don't have anything wrong with that pick, but the problem is that Zadina's not playing right now. Moritz Seider, who went 6th last year, again, a very good prospect. Some guys were like, yo, what the fuck is Detroit doing? But, I mean, in all honesty, I had him at 8. So when I saw that, maybe I'm as crazy as Stevie Yzerman, but I just think that, you know what, they have a lot of holes to fill. So I would think that, you know what, it's a best player available. At 4, I mean, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, initially I was thinking that maybe getting a defenseman like a Jake Sanderson would be money here, newfound money. Like, I mean, if you're talking about like a Ryan Suter type, like how good would Ryan Suter be here? So I like, you know, them grabbing a defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, man, their goaltenders just haven't been very good.
No.
So I mean, again, like that name Askarov, I mean, shit. I mean, we know Yzerman likes his
Yeah.
Russians. He played, what was it, the Russian 5 with Igor Larionov?
Yeah.
You know,
Fedorov,
he had ties to
Konstantinov.
he had ties
Kozlov.
to the Vesternikov when Tampa Bay drafted.
Yeah.
Obviously, Khrushchev. So, I mean, he loves his Russians. That would make a lot of sense to me. And then, I mean, if you're going to go forward, I'm hearing Cole Perfetti. I don't know if that's going to happen, but shit, like, you could go Perfetti, you could go Lucas Raymond, just so many nice players. So I think I would say because they have so many holes, best player is probably
Their
the
best
most
strategy,
fitting
yeah,
answer.
absolutely.
Versus Edmonton, where, I mean, it's a little
Well, let's
easier
transition
to-
right into that. Edmonton
so let's do that.
Oilers.
So, I mean, the Edmonton Oilers, known fact, they got skill, they got good players everywhere. I mean, Ethan Bear, they drafted John Marino. I still can't believe this 6th round pick went to Pittsburgh. Like, I don't know the full story behind that, but that's gotta suck if you're Edmonton because, like, you're paying all these defensemen so much money and half of them aren't even playing in the NHL. So, you know, I actually like Edmonton's depth on defense. I like their depth up front, but I think the one thing that they are missing is leadership. So if I'm gonna beat Edmonton Oilers and if I'm picking at 14, I want a guy with a motor that has leadership. You know, looking at their left wing position right now, if Andreas Athanasiou is your number 2 left winger, I would probably suggest to draft a guy that can maybe play there or even, again, more
versatile. So, one of these Jans, you know.
I knew it was going to be Jan. Is it Jan?
So, you know, the name that I'm actually thinking of is Ridley Gregg.
Okay.
So I think Ridley Gregg's dad, again, who was drafted in the NHL.
Yeah, top 15, right?
A guy that, I mean, you know, similar to Elias Anderson, who just said, hey, you know what, I don't want to be drafted by the Flyers because my dad is a scout for the Flyers. I love it. You know, I mean, this kid has honestly made every opportunity for himself. And, you know, I don't need to talk about him again because he's like he's my favorite player in the draft, right? Like, no joke. But this kid, just, you give him whatever and he's going to make like lemonade out of lemons. So, I mean, if you're dealing with guys with a bad attitude on that team, you don't have to worry about Tyler Benson, like, you know, fitting in that, you know, like, that leadership role. You have another guy that can come and do it, whether he's playing center or left wing.
And to be honest, I think
and if they trade Nugent Hopkins, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't know if they're going to keep him or not. You know, they have cap issues because they've spent so much money in other positions. So, I mean,
yeah, and I think you've exposed a great point on there. Like, Edmonton is really lacking leadership. Like,
absolutely,
you know, that's something that could really round out their team. And in general, it seems like they need to round out their team. They have a lot of those top end guys. But, you know, put the right pieces around.
Well, I mean, statistically speaking, Draisaitl and McDavid were 1 and 2. So, I mean, it's not putting up points.
That's not the problem.
They're just letting too many goals in. They're just so bad in terms of defense, and you said leadership. And I mean, like you just said, I mean, it sounds like this guy can actually make lemonade out of piss, let alone lemons. So, I mean, this sounds like the perfect fit for the Oilers.
Fit for them, absolutely. And so our last one, you know, the prime time of America, the nicest place in America, Buffalo, the Buffalo Sabres.
The Buffalo Sabres or the Cleveland Browns of the NHL? I feel bad for these guys. I mean, you know, in all honesty, it doesn't matter who they take. It just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So, I mean,
the most highly touted.
So, can you imagine like a Marco Rossi going there? And, like, I feel bad for Marco
Rossi.
Like, is Jack Eichel going to even be there in 2 years?
It doesn't sound like it,
I mean,
to be honest.
And in all honesty, like, their decision making has been decent, but it just hasn't worked. So if I'm a prognosticator, I'm going to say, you know, like, what do the Sabres need? I think that, you know what, they just haven't looked the same when they lost Ryan O'Reilly. I think that, you know what, they need to hone in and grab a center. So I think, I mean, yeah, you know, they may have drafted centers like Casey Middlestad, but I mean, at the end of the day, Casey Middlestad is not
your answer.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So you got, you know, you got to keep building. So, I mean, Dylan Cousins is a guy they took last year. I can't believe they took him before a guy like a Trevor Zegras who went 9th to the Anaheim Ducks, who just drafts so well. I digress. But, you know, I honestly think that, you know, I'm going for a center here, you know, makes a lot of sense. And then in terms of what centers are available, I mean, everybody's list does look so different. So I did mention too that Marco Rossi's ranked 9 on some lists. So, I mean, but Marco Rossi is there.
Any chance.
Jesus, you know, Jesus. So yeah, that would be my pick for.
I love it.
For the Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, also a team that could use a few help.
Maybe more than Ottawa. Shit, I don't know, son.
Ooh, God, that's a.
They
that's a
also
tough
had
one.
Lehner too, and shit.
As if both of them let Lehner go.
Yo,
It's
that's
like,
what
yo,
happens
you don't
when
know
an MMA
Leonard.
fighters are goaltenders. Shit just goes to the fucking shitter. That's what happened. Both places.
Too good.
Yeah, awesome. So, yo, Mr. ThawerPower,
Yo,
we
what's
really
up?
appreciate having you on. I'm
Thank
going
you,
to let
sir.
Siraj introduce this last segment to kind of
Oh, man.
close this out.
So far, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing everything you've got to say about the draft. So I've been really excited about that. And so I'm just going to let you go ahead with your hot takes and see where you go with this.
Beauty. So my first one is, are you ready? Marco Rossi is going to be at the same level, if not higher, than Alexis Lafreniere
Whoa.
and Tim Stützle.
Wow.
And, you know, call me crazy. I probably am a little crazy because, I mean, everybody in their dog, I mean, if they could put money on it,
Yes.
they would put money on
Absolutely.
Lafreniere. I mean, that's kind of the point of a hot take. So just to give it some context, it's not like I'm like, hey, if I own the first
Yes.
pick, I'm going to
Take
Marco
Marco
Rossi.
Rossi.
But, you know, hockeyprospecting.com actually shows a higher percentage chance of Marco Rossi to be not only an NHL player, but an NHL superstar
Oh, wow.
than Alexis Lafreniere. So models kind
I
of
love
like
it.
Yeah.
and I mean, I'll be honest, like, I'm just going to put more value on a center than a winger.
Yeah.
Taylor Hall went number
Always.
1 over Tyler Seguin. I mean, he won, what was the award for like the most valuable player? I'm pretty sure he won that.
You won the heart, yeah.
He did win the
Yeah,
heart.
yeah.
But I mean, in all honesty, like, centers are just, I don't know if you could say one is more important than the other, but I'm going to say that I think playing the center position is harder.
Awesome.
You touched on it. You touched on
first?
it really well, actually. Just to quickly make a point, you touched on Jamie Benn and how he had to shift to the left wing. I mean, they needed a center so badly that they went out and got a guy like Taylor Seguin to go and play with Jamie Benn, who was considered a top 10 player in the NHL at the time. So that kind of gives you a really good understanding of how important that is, you know?
That's that center role is.
100%. 100%. So my next take probably would be that since Andrei Vasilevsky, since Carey Price, the best goaltender to come out of the first round is Yaroslav Askarov. You guys aren't hockey experts, but I think you probably would have guessed that one just of how
We've hyped him up so far, yeah.
So I mean, that to me, I mean, if you're gonna miss on a strikeout, you're gonna miss on a strikeout.
Yeah.
I am throwing that pitch.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all I'm gonna tell you. So
Awesome.
that would be my second one. My third one, which again I probably alluded to, Ridley Gregg is probably going to be the biggest steal of the draft. I don't think that Ridley Gregg is going to go top 15 according to teams because he's just not sexy enough.
Yeah.
But man, that man is sexy enough to me, man. If I had the 7th pick, I'm taking Ridley Gregg all day.
Awesome.
And laughing at the world later, right? Like, who wasn't laughing at Jarmo Kekalainen for taking Pierre-Luc Dubois over Jesse Puljujärvi?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, I mean, Peter Chiarelli ran to the podium according to his words. Who's laughing now?
yeah.
He doesn't have a job.
Yeah, right?
Ouch. And then my next take would probably be that, I mean, you know, there's a lot of consensus that JJ Peterka is probably the second best German, you know, to come out of this draft. So to my understanding, I think this is the first time in the draft where you're going to see more than one German player come out of the first round. So there's 3 guys, Tim Stützle, who's just a beast. And then there's a guy named JJ Peterka. And then there's a guy named Lucas Reichel, who you're a Flames fan. He's Robert Reichel's nephew.
Oh, my man.
Just a
I
little
love
stud.
that.
He reminds me a lot of Mike Hoffman.
Okay.
Is he
and I would say
bald?
that JJ I don't think so. I think he has hair. I think he has hair right now.
I thought those guys were born bald. I thought the Reichels just came with no hair.
give me that bet on Bet365, man. If he's bald and he's a Reichel, what's the multiplier on that? I'm taking that all day. I digress. So yeah, I mean that's Lukas Reichel, and then there's a guy named JJ Peterka who's had a lot of love. He killed in the German league last year. He's been pretty good this year. But I would be confident to say that I think Lukas Reichel is going to be the second best German from this draft.
Okay.
And again, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes top 15. There is a lot of love for him.
Yeah,
love that.
And then my last one, I think Jamie Drysdale is the most overrated player in the top 10 according to consensus rankings.
Okay.
So ask me why.
Why?
Tell me why.
Okay. So, hear me out, man. I love Jamie Drysdale. I hope it works out for him. But when you're talking about a top 10 pick, you're talking about a guy that has an elite skill. So, I mean, a lot of times you're going to say, oh, well, Jamie Drysdale's an elite skater. Yes, he is. But going from 7 goals in his rookie year to 9 goals the following year, I don't know if I'm buying the fact that you're telling me he's an offensive defenseman or a two-way defenseman. So there was just a play in the Top Prospects game where he batted the puck out of Cole Perfetti's, reach or whatever. Cole Perfetti ended up getting the puck back, gave it back to the defenseman, and they scored. So that just exemplifies a guy that, I mean, he's going to be in the play because he has the speed, but now what? And I think that it's just presumed that when you're in the NHL, you got to have more than speed, right? You especially if you're going to want to consider yourself an offensive defenseman. When I'm thinking of Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar,
they hold their own back there.
It seemed like they had a little bit more there offensively. So I still love Drysdale. Hopefully Jamie Drysdale doesn't hate me and has a target on my back. This is just for fun talk, but I would probably say he's the most overhyped guy in the top 10. Hockeyprospects.com agrees with me. They have him after 11. So I'm not the only one. I'm not crazy. Okay, good.
Those are some fire hot takes, my friend.
Loved it all.
Yeah. So it's been a pleasure having you on, man.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to be more than a fan.
It's our pleasure, man. You took the time to teach us today. So, we appreciate it.
Great fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Look out for him on Instagram, Mr. ThawerPower. You'll be able to find it all on the link below. Instagram, Twitter, give him a shout. He has fire material. Look for us on the Kaizen.
And just to keep a lookout for all of his material leading up to Tuesday, he's got a lot of this, the lucky number 7. Those pics are going to be up on Instagram and on Twitter. So we're going to get all the graphics done so you guys can keep track of those heading into Tuesday. And he's got great stuff. So keep an eye out for him. Check the Kaizen. Check Mr. ThawerPower. We're very excited for everything going on. So I hope you guys are too.
Thank you guys. Enjoy the draft.
It was a pleasure, Siraj.
You too, as usual. Kaizen. We'll do this again, Naheed. Can't wait.
Sounds good, sir. I love that.
That's solid.
That's the same way I look at people laugh who got upset about, Michael Sam, the gay football player, kissing his boyfriend when he got drafted. Everybody bitch moaning and complaining. It's like, dude, you know what? That's what you get for watching the draft. All right? Once again, what kind of a fucking loser just sits there watching round after round? The Jets are up next. I think they need a cornerback, and they need to improve the defensive line. Dude, that's like going to a graduation ceremony where you don't know anybody who's graduating and just fucking sitting there. They're gonna have the whole list the next day. They'll have everybody who drafted, who, when. Fucking gotta sit there and watch that shit. Those stupid interviews. Hey, you're a member of the Buffalo Bills. How does it feel?
Well, it's a blessing. I want to thank God. Going to try to do my best. It's a great organization. And same shit the last 80 guys said. So, yeah.
I'm glad he kissed him. He should have fucking blown him. Yeah, with birthday cake in his mouth and a Santa Claus hat on his head. Just to ruin the entire year. Holding a flag. That fucks up Flag Day. You'll keep thinking about it.